So welcome, welcome. Um, I have the sense that everybody has been working for a while with the practices of meditation and mindfulness through the Diabetes Sangha. But where I come from with first I just want to talk a little bit about my own personal practice is I went through, when I was very young, I was introduced to the physical practice of yoga. I didn't even really know it was yoga. I kind of found out later that that was what I was doing at 17. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and we had this fantastic teacher who used to sort of, in our gym class, bring all sorts of alternative things. And he was very passionate about yoga. And apparently we did a lot of yoga, but I just thought it was kind of funky stretching. And I didn't really know what it was. And then I had a career as a dancer. And so I was very, body centric and enjoyed expressing myself through my body. And when I decided to go on a hiatus from dancing around the age of 21. And I moved to this beautiful place here in Australia called Byron Bay. And back in those days, there wasn't much yoga, but whatever yoga there was, it was very authentic and it came directly through the lineage in India. So the teachers that I experienced were, going to India every 6 months and coming back and sharing what they had learned from the yoga masters in the lineage of Krishnamacharya. So Krishnamacharya is sort of thought of as the father of modern yoga. And so along with that experience of doing yoga, my girlfriend dragged me along to an insight meditation retreat, a 3-day retreat on this place in the bush called Bodhi Farm with composting toilets. And we lived in a little dome and we shared a room. And every day we would go and study with this former Buddhist monk called Alan Clemens. And Alan Clemens is actually still teaching. Some of you may have heard of him. And so we would go and we would sit, 9 hours a day, and then we would do walking meditation. And I would have been, 22 or 23. And it was all very new to me, but I also had this strong sense that it was something that would be really supportive to me because I had a kind of a high stress personality. I was quite anxious. And so the experience of sitting and just being and just kind of watching my breath was very novel, but it also I could feel the tangible results in that I was more aware of the nature around me after a meditation. I was more present when I was speaking to my friends, and I was more present with just the internal sensations and the things that were going on. And so eventually I got really passionate about insight meditation called Vipassana meditation. And I did that for many, many years. In fact, for 10 years, I meditated 2 hours a day, every day, nonstop. And then I ended up back in New York and I met my teacher, Alan Finger, who's the founder of the Ishta style of yoga. And he introduced me to Tantra and Tantric meditation, which involved working with sound and shape. So instead of just watching my breath and watching sensation, I was actively focusing my mind. And the word that's used for that is kriya. So I was taking an action and focusing my mind in on a shape or a sound. And we even worked with gesture, mudra, putting our hands in certain positions. And it was all very vibrant and a colorful experience. So instead of, just having that repetition of watching the sensations, all of a sudden my mind was creatively engaged. And I found that I was having these experiences of opening and creativity and passion for life. And I wasn't restless anymore. It was like when I did these kinds of meditations, my mind became very focused. And that feeling of restlessness or being very uncomfortable in my body dissipated. And one thing that he really emphasized was you must be extremely comfortable when you're sitting, rather than, in Vipassana, we were sort of taught to observe the uncomfortable sensations and kind of watch them coming and going. He was like, you've got to be so comfortable that you can't even tell that you can't even feel your body, and your mind is just actively engaged. So this was a huge breakthrough for me in my experience of meditation, and I absolutely loved it. And I became addicted. meditating. And he also said, look, you only need to meditate for 18 minutes a day. And whether you're thinking or not thinking, or whether you lose your focus on the practice or not, it doesn't matter. It all elicits the relaxation response. So the relaxation response was coined by Herbert Benson. And that basically says that when you bring your mind into a one-pointed focus with the goal of letting go of the thoughts in the mind, then this parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, which is our relaxed part of our nervous system. And it helps to get you more into that part of your nervous system. So scientifically, they say we spend more time we naturally should spend 90% of the time in our parasympathetic nervous system and 10% of the time in our sympathetic nervous system. And in our society, it's switched around. And honestly, living with diabetes, we're on edge. We don't want to be on edge, but often we are on edge. So whatever we can do to bring our nervous system back into homeostasis is going to be beneficial. And so any kind of meditation practice is going to do that, whether it's an insight meditation, whether it's a visualization, whether it's just focusing on washing the dishes or doing prayer beads, or whatever you do, as long as you have that intention to place the mind into a specific place with the idea that you're going to let go of all that movement in the mind, you're going to experience that increased parasympathetic nervous system response. So having said that, what I wanted to share with you today is something that happened when I was working with someone who had a concussion, actually. And they had a concussion, and what they were experiencing was when they were hearing sounds or in a loud environment, it was really hard for them to focus. And so they were having trouble just kind of getting things done because their nervous system was really affected by the external sounds. And so I said, well, maybe we should try this listening meditation, which is a process that I'm going to take you through, where we're going to listen to the sounds that are quite close to us, and then eventually work towards sounds which are very, very far away. And then we're going to immerse into what's beyond sound and what's always there, which is the silence. And then from there, I'm going to lead you through a series of mudras. Now, I don't want to talk too much once we've done that initial listening meditation. I want to be able to just guide you through the mudras. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what mudras are. But mudras are gestures, hand gestures, that have been around since the beginning of humankind. And originally, we talked with our hands. Sound or mantra, voice came after gesture. And now when we speak, and you can see I'm moving my hands a lot, gesture is now like an afterthought, gesticulation, and different cultures gesture in different ways. But if you look into all the traditional cultures, you'll see they all, when we see depictions and statues and things like that, we're going to see these hand positions, right? We're going to see them like this, or we know this one, yeah? So all these gestures, what they do is they affect the part of the brain that's responsible for movement and emotion. So if you think about it, when you're having, a low blood sugar, or you're dealing with, something that's like unusual or whatever, and you kind of react, you might have like a nervous system response, or like a fright or something like that, then immediately the parasympathetic nervous system comes in and calms that down. But that fright, that initial fright, comes from the part of the brain that's responsible for movement, because in the olden days, when a tiger would come towards you, you would run out of there, right? You would immediately find your limbs moving. Or when we're faced with something where we have like an inordinate amount of strength that we didn't know we had, that comes from that immediate response, the fight or flight response. So the hands are like, the fingers are like, when we place them together, like they're like subtle switches, which switch the nervous system into the parasympathetic. And when you look at babies and things like that, it's very interesting. Like my son, when he was little, and he used to go bring his fingers into different positions when he was asleep in his car seat. And then his eyes would like move back and forth really, really fast. And to me, it seemed like a bit of a brain development thing, you know? So I think the use of our hands, how we use our hands, and how our brain works are completely interconnected. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a grounding series of mudras that you can apply anytime you're feeling this kind of intensity or reaction emotionally. You can bring in the mudras, and within a few moments, they're going to calm you right down. So say I'm waiting to come up from a low blood sugar or something like that, I'll often just cross my hands and rest them in my lap to calm down. Or I might, I don't really do this because that's not very calming, or I might just bring the thumb and index finger together or something like that. Sometimes I do this one just to kind of sort of soften that energy and that reaction in my whole being when things are not going according to plan. Yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you. And I know probably I imagine you're used to, sitting for a while and all that, but my thing is like really we want to be as comfortable as possible. So get yourself, if you want to do the meditation lying down, feel free to lie down. If you want to lean back against your chair, if you're a staunch meditator and you want to sit upright, but then halfway through your leg starts falling asleep, well then change your position. Don't feel like it all has to be perfect. And a lot of you have your cameras off anyway, so I can't see you. I can't see you meditating. All right, so we're going to start the meditation with something called breath balancing pose. You're going to bring your 4 fingers underneath your armpits and just let your elbows drop. And then just closing your eyes. And you just want to feel the evenness of breath. So see if you can notice how the breath is flowing into the left and right sides of your chest. And just feel your breath slowing down. You don't have to force the breath in any way. And you might even notice that your breath is flowing more into one of your hands than the other. And if that's the case, take the forearm that's on top and just place it underneath. And then just feel your breath balancing. And what happens when we start the meditation or the breathing practice is that we might feel a lot of expansion in the chest. But then as we move along, we might start to feel that the breath becomes more and more subtle. And that's what you're after. You're after a nice, gentle breath. The mind slows down as soon as the breath slows down. Right, and then when you feel like the breath is even in both sides, if you have that hand underneath, you can take it back on top. And then just gently bring your hands down. Rest them wherever they're comfortable. And just become aware and notice where the energy is resting in your body right now. Maybe you can feel some movement somewhere Maybe it's not very much sensation right now. Just noticing where energy is in your body. Maybe it's just in a toe or in a finger. Maybe it's everywhere. And just keep following the places in your body that you feel sensation, just for a few moments. Being aware of any restlessness, not trying to change the restlessness or resolve the restlessness, but just allowing it to be what it is. Feel free to change position. Now just gently become aware of the sounds that are very close to you, the sound of your breath in your body. Maybe you can even hear your belly rumbling. Maybe you just came from dinner. You can hear those digestive noises. Just really see if you can fine-tune your listening to just listening to what's very close to you. So sometimes just hearing the sound of your breath is so subtle, it's even hard to tune into it. But see if you can. Now just take your awareness a little bit further away to just the sounds in the space around you. Maybe you've got a creaky room, or you're in the room with your refrigerator or your heater, and you can hear those sounds. Maybe you have a pet in the room with you and you can hear them snoring or breathing. Maybe you've got a baby with you. Just really tuning to the sounds just outside of your own body, but very close to you. And just notice the coming and going of those sounds. Not trying to change the sounds or make anything meaningful about the sounds, but just being present with them. Noticing that each sound has a beginning, a middle, and an end. No sound lasts forever. So reach and stretch your awareness now to the sounds, maybe outside the room. Maybe you can hear the sound of the wind outside, or maybe it's raining. Maybe you can hear neighbors or car noise or animal sounds like crickets or birds. But see if you can be aware of those sounds just outside the space. Maybe if you're in a room which isn't close to the outside, but close to another room, maybe there's the sound of the TV in another room. See if you can bring your awareness to sounds just outside the room that you're in, whatever you can hear. And again, noticing how those sounds have a time that they come, a time that they stay, and a time that they go. And also notice any restlessness in your body. As you listen to the sounds, how's your body responding? Just be present with that. Now reach your awareness even further out. So now beyond the sounds, outside the room, maybe out onto the road or out into your backyard. See if you can just reach your awareness to a sound that's a little bit farther away. Even if you can't actually hear the sound, maybe imagine what that sound might be out there. A dog barking in the distance, roaring of the ocean, the highway, friends walking by on the street. Just keep listening to the sounds. The sounds just beyond your home. And then reach your awareness even further. Imagine that you're listening to the furthest property on your road. So right down the street from you. It might just be the most subtle sound, their car leaving the driveway, or their dog barking, or the TV in the distance, or someone's radio. Or the sounds of the owls at night, a bird flying, a bat. And then keep going. Keep reaching and stretching your awareness to the furthest sound. Notice what happens to your breath in your body when you do this. When you just keep stretching your awareness. And then try this, simultaneously listening to the closest sound and listening to the furthest sound. And seeing if you can hold both those sounds in your awareness at once. Maybe you lose focus for a moment and then bring yourself back, trying to hear the closest and the furthest sound all at the same time. Now notice how every sound comes and goes in the presence of silence. Start to tune into the silence behind every sound. So the silence comes and the sound disappears. But even though the sound comes, the silence doesn't disappear. The silence is there despite the sound. Silence is ever present. You can't say before silence. Can't say after silence. You can only say before sound and after sound. Think of the silence and its limitless nature. Notice the difference between listening to sounds and listening to silence. There's no fluctuation in silence. There's no change in silence. There's no up or down in silence. There's only silence, in whose presence the sound has a beginning and an end. So you can choose to focus on the sounds, or you can choose to be the silence. Let yourself fall into that silence, no matter what sound. Notice how the silence is like a container containing all the sounds. Whether they're close or far, the silence never changes. And notice how that silence is available anytime. So even without sitting down to do a practice, you can take a moment and remember the silence. Noticing how when you're present with silence, the sounds are there, but they no longer bother you. Call it silence, call it peace, call it awareness. Silence is everywhere in abundance. So slowly come back to the sounds. Knowing the silence is always there, just come back to that furthest sound. The one at the end of the street, or the one you can hear that's far away. And then coming back to a sound that's just in your backyard, close to your home. And bring your awareness to a sound that's just outside your room. Maybe not just in the room next to you. And then bring your awareness to the sounds inside the room. What can you hear in close proximity to your own body? And then become aware of the sounds inside the body. Maybe the sound of your tummy digesting, sound of your breath. Just being present with those sounds. And even with this acute awareness of the sounds inside, just notice how the silence just continues on and on and on, ever available to you, ever present. And then when you're ready, coming back to your breath. Maybe you'd like to deepen and lengthen your breath. Just noticing how the breath feels in the body right now. Just remembering that sense, that felt sense of listening and being present with both sound and silence. Noticing how the two just naturally coexist and are not in conflict with each other. And then when you're ready, just gently opening your eyes. So a simply powerful tool to calm the mind. And we took about 20 minutes, but you could do it in 5 minutes, you could do it in 3 minutes. When you're feeling that stress and that tension, go into the sounds. What's happening right inside my body? How is it, how is it showing? What are the sounds around me? What are the sounds even further away and further away? And then remembering silence. Because as soon as you move into silence, that all that restlessness just drops. I don't know if everybody felt that, but there was a lot of restlessness while we were listening to the sounds. I could feel it in my body. And then as soon as we all dropped into silence, it was like, whoa, this is a, and you know, our nature is silence, actually, you know? I mean, our nature is sound in the sense that sound is, you know, the pulse of life, but then there's always what's holding that, you know, and that's the silence. So no matter what is going on in your day, try and remember that beautiful silence that you are, you know, that stillness, that peace, that awareness, and it'll just calm the nervous system right down. All right, so we're going to go into the mudras now, and I might come just a little closer so you can see my hands. And I'm going to take you through the sequence, and we'll just, each time we hold a mudra just for a couple of minutes. But if there's a mudra that's, you know, not comfortable to you, or you're not sure, you could always turn on your camera and show me what you're doing with your hands, and I can help you. But the first one that we're going to do is we take our hands wide and we cross at the thumbs so that the palms are facing towards you. And then you just place those crossed hands on your chest. And this is Garuda Mudra. Garuda Mudra is the mudra of the eagle. And the eagle is the vehicle for Vishnu. And Vishnu is, in the Indian pantheon, he's thought of as the sustainer, so sustenance. So when we go into this mudra, it's a self-care mudra. It's really about feeling your heartbeat, feeling the pulse of life underneath you, and that you're alive. And what an incredible miracle it is to be alive and to have this gift to express ourselves in the world in whatever way we can. So just holding the mudra, we're just going to close our eyes, and there's nothing in particular that you have to do here. There's no breath guide, there's no mental guide. It's just hold the mudra and just feel your hands on your body and just notice what happens. Notice your breath. It may take a few moments for you just to settle into the experience of holding the mudras. So allow yourself that time. All right, and then just gently open your eyes and release the mudra. Now you're going to place one hand just below your navel and one hand just above your navel. And you can cup the hand slightly as you hold. And it's like you're holding a ball over your navel. So think of the navel, and this is really, again, you know, coming from the whole system of yoga. The navel is our hara, it's the seat of our energy. And when we are dealing externally with a lot of different factors, we tend to lose energy in having to think, having to identify, having to make decisions. So this is like a mudra which builds energy, and it's specifically for that navel area. So you might even like to imagine that you're just holding a beautiful ball in your hands. And you're holding that, it's like a warming, nurturing ball just around your navel. Now, if your arms get tired or you feel like you're holding it for too long, just rest your hands on your thighs. Don't worry if it, it's very personal. Some of us can hold these a little bit longer, some of us can't. Just doing whatever feels nurturing and comfortable to you. And if resting in between the mudras works, then please, please, I encourage you to do that. All right, so our next mudra is still working with the navel. We're going to make a triangle around the navel. Yeah, so you've got your thumbs touching and your index finger touching, and you've got this triangle here. And this is the shape of, again, what's called the Manipura chakra. So Manipura is a city of gems. It's the name for one of the balancing yantras. So yantras are specific shapes which hold energy in place. And so first we were igniting the energy, and now we're holding that energy in place so that we can really draw from it and use it. So having that sense of your energy just resting in the navel and staying in the navel, not shooting out in all sorts of other areas. Because we need focus and determination and presence to make clear decisions, to really listen to ourselves and know what to do next. All right, from here we're going to lower the left hand on the thigh and just have the palm facing down for now. And we're going to raise the right arm up and just cup the right hand slightly. So this is called Abhaya Mudra, and it is a mudra of courage. And I do feel that living with diabetes, we need to have a lot of courage. Courage to just keep moving forward no matter what's going on. Courage to face, different situations and different challenges. So courage is a really powerful tool in our toolbox. Bravery and courage. And we often see many deities traditionally in this position. Again, if your arm gets tired, you'll want to bring it down and just have a rest. You can also, if you're seated on the floor, you could also rest your forearm on your knee like I am to make it a little bit more comfortable. Or you can rest it on the back of a chair, on your armchair, or a pillow. All right, and then from here, we're going to come into the earth mudra. So you just take your first two fingers and you wrap your thumb around the little finger and the ring finger, and then you just place it down with your wrists on your knees. And if you were sitting on the floor, you could also put your two fingers, I don't know if you can see, you can put your two fingers on the floor, and that's like really a current of energy going down into the earth. But you don't have to. You can just have the two fingers together and just rest them, palms facing down on your thighs. So something that we want to keep coming back to is how the earth supports us. We're made of the elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space. The earth is where we can plant our seeds of courage. right, and just gently opening the eyes. Now you're going to bring the heels of your hands together and extend and have the little finger and the thumb touching. And then we draw this a little bit close to the heart. And this is Padma Mudra, the mudra of the lotus. And so you want to take your fingers a little bit apart, yeah? Like you're holding a lotus in your hands. And something that I often do with this mudra is I think of all my fingers as the different emotions and the different feelings that I have about living with this condition. And I imagine that they're just floating off my fingers and back out into the ethos, and that I don't have to identify with all these different feelings and emotions. They can just float away from me like little seeds leaving the petals, or specks of dust leaving the petals of the flowers. And then what's left is this pure, fragrant lotus perfume. So if there's anything this evening that you just want to move on from, imagine it like a speck of dust just floating off a flower petal into the ether. It doesn't have to tie you down or weigh you down in any way. All right, and then from here we're going to cross at the wrists and bring all the fingers to touch. And this is a little lotus bud. And this is your pure, pure, pure self, the inner heart, seat of the self. When we think about a lotus bud, when it closes, it's like the bees that might be still in there, they get to sleep in the warmth of that lotus bud. So this is that warm inner flame that burns, no matter what. A spark of life. And then just gently bring your palms to touch. Feeling the union of your left and right sides, the active and the passive, awareness and energy. And we'll chant together 3 times, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May there be peace, peace, peace. Peace with myself, peace with all the people that I interact with, and peace in the wider world.